Hi everyone, this is a video edition of the Scattered podcast. I'm Yvonne Chorlin. I'm a physical or biological anthropologist and archaeologist, and this is a short video of my contribution to the Alberta portion of a cross-Canada scavenging project led by Dr. Sherry Forbes. To learn more about Sherry and the origin of this project, listen to episode 16 of the audio portion of this podcast. In a nutshell, law enforcement need to recover as much potential forensic evidence as possible to help solve cases. They approach Sherry with two questions. Where do we search for this evidence and how far do we search for it? To help answer these questions, Sherry wants to identify the scavengers and their scavenger behavior to figure out who may have influenced the movement of this evidence, and then also to map the dispersal of the evidence so we know where it went. By identifying the scavengers and their scavenger behavior and mapping the dispersal of the evidence, we hope to see patterns and be able to answer the two questions of where and how far to search for the remains so that we can answer this for law enforcement. So having these ideas and these questions is all fine and dandy, but how do you do this? How do you identify the scavengers and map the dispersal of the remains? Well, that's where this video comes in. I'm going to show you. Okay, it is August 12th, 2022. This is the Nanton forested site. We are on top of a hill in the foothills west of Nanton. This is predominantly spruce, pine, and aspen, as you can see here. And like I said, we are on top of a hill in the foothills. And when I say hill, I do mean a hill. So here we have the trail in where we drag the pig from a side-by-side that we had. We can see we've got a bit of a blood trail here. And we dragged it in here. So again, at this site we have a dressed pig, and I have marked the location of its head with a stake. I don't know if the stake will stay. We shall see. You can see the side-by-sides in the distance there. So we have camera, where are we here? Right there. We have cable holding the pig there. We have camera here, and so there's that last camera, and we have a camera right there. So you can see where the tree line ends. That turns into grassland and into more open hills. We have, again, two trackers on this pig. One on the forelimb, one on the hind limb. Head there, stake noting the head position, just in case this pig is scavenged quickly and does not leave before it decomposes and leaves a body stain indicating the original point of deposition. So hopefully that stake will indicate the original point of deposition if the body staining doesn't. While the pig was being set up and Sherry was setting up the cameras, I took notes and photographs of the pig and the surrounding area, and I made a sketch map of any topographical features including fence lines, buildings, and roads. Then we set the cameras and we left and waited for the scavengers to show up. Within just a few days, we already had bears show up. This black bear stayed and kind of staked out his claim, or its claim, on the pig and scavenged and returned again and again. A grizzly did show up and visit the carcass, but didn't seem too interested in scavenging it. We had other bears also show up. We also had coyotes and a skunk and a moose, but the bears seemed to be our primary scavengers. Today is August 28th, 2023. This is the Nanton closed site. It was put out, let me see, August 12th, 2022. The pig was originally here. Cameras were collected in September 2022, so it's been over a year that these remains have been here. So that was north, south, east, west. We're on top of a hill right now, overlooking the mountains to the west. So the hill goes down where you can see the sunlight. There's the end of the tree line, and then the slope goes down. The slope also goes down to the west. And we tied it to a cable here. So we drove in here. We had a bit of an egress. You can see where the light is. There's a vehicle path through there, and we drug the pig in here and deposited it here. Main paths of dispersal seem to be that way, and we've got some flags there. At the original deposition point, we had a lot of ribs and vertebrae, as one would expect. The furthest one that we found was 70 meters that way, just downslope. We found one of the two trackers, but the one tracker that we did find was very close to the pig here. So that one was collected in September. The other tracker was not found. We also found just some remains, a couple there, and one there. So more of a random scatter in here. And there's numerous game trails through here. We've got a major game trail running just inside the tree line here, kind of east-west in here. We didn't find any remains along that trail. Looks like we have a bit of a trail here, which you can see remains were found along there. So this is looking north from the original deposition point, which is back in there. So that's towards the south. That's towards the north. And this is past the tree line. And as you can see, sloping down a little bit in here, we've got a vehicle track kind of in here, over there. And then we had another one over here at about 70 meters away. When I did an inventory on the remains we recovered about 1 year after we deposited the pig, I found that we had recovered nearly 20% of the skeleton. This was less than we had hoped, but it was within range and compared well with the other sites that we had. When I looked at what types of bones made up the remains we recovered, I saw it was mostly vertebrae, ribs, and limbs. So what do we know so far? At this site, our main scavengers appear to be bears. There were sightings of other animals like coyotes, but the bears seemed to be the primary scavenger and the ones that we captured on film. The activity started within the first week and continued. While I did observe trails before and after the dispersal of the remains, the dispersal wasn't confined to the trails. In fact, there didn't really seem to be a pattern of dispersal. It would be interesting to analyze the data on the scavengers we saw to see if there was a sequence in which they appeared at the remains. We recovered about 18% of the skeleton, and the remains we recovered nearest the original deposition point were ribs, vertebrae, and limbs. We only recovered one tracker, and that was found near the original deposition point. What have we learned overall across all our sites? We learned that our main scavengers are coyotes, bears, and birds. Game trails can be created or used by scavengers to access the carcass and to disperse the remains. We learned that sometimes there is a difference in the number of remains observed at the preliminary search and the number of remains collected at the final search. We also learned that we mostly collected vertebrae and ribs. This video wouldn't have been possible without the study led by Dr. Shari Forbes. The Calgary and Edmonton Police Service were instrumental in helping us to find land to use, coordinate the searches and carcasses, and of course, to let us know if this information is useful to them. Many big thanks to the landowners and pig growers. We couldn't have done this research without you. To find out more about this study, tune into my podcast, Scattered, One Person's Search for the Story Behind Human Remains, available on your favorite podcast platform. Also, check out the other videos in this series available on my website, yvonnechorlin.com, and read about it on my blog and on Facebook.